So this slide shows the Reddit alien. I don't know how many of you use Reddit, but the Reddit alien has been depicted in many different ways by many different people all over the world. Typically, it's like a little graphic, but this artist has depicted it as a vast monster being summoned from the sea. I'm a digital media strategist. I've been researching cross-cultural social media because it's interesting in terms of which platforms are going to dominate the globe. We already know some stuff about how digital media usage changes with culture. American marketers typically post pictures of individuals on social media and they make individual appeals. So they'll be like, be your best self, like just do it. Like they'll really appeal to heroism and individualism in American culture. However, in more collectivist cultures like Chinese cultures, you get a lot more group appeals. So they post pictures of teams or they appeal to people's group identities. Like they'll be like, all of you young professionals should wear this uniform because that's what, young professionals do. There are notions that spread from culture to culture. So stickers are like kind of a thing that started in Asian cultures. You have these stickers from Line, which is like a chat app from Japan. People would send these little pictures to each other of like cute rabbits, etc. Now we have foxes in Facebook. I use the foxes all the time. I love them. And hipster animals in Kik, which is like another chat app, which probably a lot of us don't use because we're over 25. But it's great. It's awesome. And a lot of these ideas are spreading really strongly through Western culture now. Global mobile usage has really skyrocketed. So, this is a picture of a monk, right, using a mobile phone, but it goes way beyond monks. It's people in desperate poverty using cell phones, including Mongolian nomads. There's like 800,000 of them, and a lot of them are starting to use solar panels to charge their cell phones because they don't actually have electricity at their homesteads. So they have the cell phone, they have the electricity from the solar panel, but not at home. And so the question of the hour for a lot of major brands and like digital media platforms like Facebook and Twitter and Google is, can we figure out how platforms spread cross-culturally, and can we do it on purpose? Partly because we're competing in a global market. There's a lot of Chinese platforms that are upcoming as well. So one answer is things like Facebook Zero and Wikipedia Zero, where services will make themselves free for lower income participants in a lot of countries. In 45 countries, Facebook is 100% free, and this is important because data is very expensive when you're living on a very small amount of money. I served in the Peace Corps, and I can tell you, I spent like 1/6 of my stipend making sure that I had internet in sub-Saharan Africa. This was a lot of money. This was as much as I was spending on like food, right? And most people can't do that. I could only do that because I was a privileged American. So making it free is a really big deal. But most people want to reach out to other people. That's kind of their main goal in using digital media. So it's not enough to just make it free. You can't just like assume that they're going to use the tool. They also want there to be people on there and user-generated content. And so the question is, how can these platforms be interesting and fun to use? How can they be attractive to individuals from these cultures? How can they be easy? And the answer to that isn't necessarily universal. I'm sure we've all had the experience where we look at a cell phone app or something and we're just totally confused. So sometimes the answer is just branding. So there are some rumors that I've heard, for example, that in Vietnam, some people just prefer American platforms. They'll just be like, I prefer American platforms to Chinese platforms because America has a better brand around that area, right? But sometimes it's just about like whether it's super confusing. And this is, an American child trying to use a rotary phone. So that was a totally normal thing years ago, but it's not anymore. And there have been studies on usability as relates to culture. One of them found that specific countries are better at optimizing sites for Google if they have communication patterns that are similar to USA people. So countries like this were like Israel, Switzerland, Germany, right? They had very direct communication styles, and people who communicated directly had an easier time optimizing for Google, and people from other countries had a harder time. So American platforms don't necessarily only need to make color changes or add stickers or add kind of like nice visual motifs in order to spread. A lot of them might need to make really deep structural changes to how the platform operates and what it does. And whoever succeeds at this might dominate the world in the next like 20 years.